Hey guys! Alright, so for part of the Totally Awesome Challenge, we're going to be painting this yellow frog. He didn't turn out quite as yellow as he is on the computer because my printer is not the best quality, so I'm going to paint him much more vibrant yellow and orange and red on this green leaf with a blue background. And I'm using an 8" by 10" canvas here, and I already started to draw my grid. I'm using 2" squares for the grid. Hi Dina, hi John. If you guys were on the other one, hi Elf, hi Ian. If you guys were on that other live stream, I couldn't figure out how to get onto it on my phone. So now I just deleted that one and we're starting a new one. So here we go. But anyway, if you are unfamiliar with the grid method, I have other videos about how to do the grid method for a painting. But basically, I put a grid on my image here, and then I put a grid onto the canvas, and then we just see what's in this square, and we paint that into this square on the canvas. So we're just transferring each grid from the picture onto the canvas. And I'm going to link some of my videos that have more about the grid method in the description after this video airs. All right. I'm excited to see everybody else's Totally Awesome Challenge videos tomorrow. I wanted to post mine tomorrow, but I will be traveling tomorrow, so I'm doing it today. All right, so to get started, we need some paint. First, I'm going to add some phthalo blue. And I am... Nice, Dina, grid method. Hi, Helen. Hi, Sakuna. Yeah, Dina, lots of traveling. Let me scooch this down for you. Tomorrow I'm going to Philadelphia. I have a live wedding painting. All right, we're going to get some sap green. A little more. There we go. Totally awesome. Do some brown. This is burnt umber. Gonna need some white. Let's see here. Also gonna need some cadmium yellow light. A little more than that. Lots of yellow. How's everybody doing today? That's cadmium red. Also have phthalo green. I am almost out of phthalo green. Cadmium yellow medium. It's more of an orange yellow. Oh, nice. Thunderstorms. We had really sunny days here in Pittsburgh the last couple days. All right, what else do we need here? Use some of this is burnt sienna. Oh, nice, Ian. That's good. You're relaxing now. What were you working on today? Hello. All right, this one is French ultramarine blue. And what else do I need? I need some alizarin crimson. Oh, Ian, I got to see your painting. I'll look up that later. All right, so that's alizarin crimson. Also going to do a little bit of permanent rose. And these are all oil paints, by the way. We're going to see if I can get this done. Do you folks recommend sticking with matte on acrylic work or gloss? I like more of a matte look when I'm working with acrylics, but that's up to the artist, I think. Whatever you think has a better look for what type of work you're doing. I'm gonna do a little bit of yellow ochre too, because why not? And a little bit of black, because there's a little bit of black in the eye. There's my black, also is almost destroyed. There. Dana likes the gloss, nice. Alrighty, so we got all of our oil paints down here, and now I'm going to sketch out the frog and the leaves on my grid. Yay! Hi, Forgotten Winter! How are you? Alright, so I'm gonna get to work here. I'm gonna leave you guys to the chat for a minute. You can just watch or chat amongst yourselves, and I'll check back in a second here. I think I'm gonna use this brush. This is a flat-tipped, smaller size brush that'll allow me to get some finer lines on here just to outline where the frog is gonna be. So I'm just blending some white with some brown, and I also have my citrus solvents. It's my paint thinner. I will put that right there. And this is the bottle that comes in. This is really good stuff. I like this stuff. Alright, so we're going to thin the paint down. And we'll just get started kind of sketching out where the frog's going to be. So I'm going to start right here. So this is my second line in. It's about right there. A little bit looser. Alright. He's got his eye here. Kind of sticking out. Let's just do this part first. And this comes down kind of like this. This is a little bit farther than halfway, a little bit less than halfway. This one comes about right here. And we got these lines from the body he has there. Alright, now this line kind of just comes like that. And then this eye comes out a little bit more. Something like that. Alright, good. Back down here. So this is about halfway. Just over halfway. This is just under halfway. Alright.
Motion detected at the back door.
Okay, these lines almost come near each other there. Alright, now let's do this eye. It's a big eye. It's about there. Ends about there. Comes down to about here. Comes up to about here. There we go. Alright. Go up here.
Motion detected at the back door.
Alexa, volume down. Okay. One more arm. Alrighty. There we go. Alright, so now we got the frog sketched out, just very briefly, so we know our proportions are accurate. And the next thing I'm going to do is start to work on the background, but first let's look at the chat real quick. Yes, Ian, good idea. Looking at totally awesome challenge, gotta do that. Hi, Caramel. Hi, Artesco Scar. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Elf Lords, yeah. Tell Alexa, sell my painting. Now she's gonna talk to me because I said her name. All right. Nice. All right, so I'm gonna keep working here. Oh, thank you, Dina. Yep, good idea. All right, put the chat back down. Oops. Oh, hi, Rounded Rob. Hi. Okay, good. So, like I said, next we're going to start with the background. So, we have a lot of phthalo blue in this section of the background, and there's a little bit more of ultramarine blue, maybe a hint of some rose with some white over here. There's a little bit of purple, and then we have more ultramarine, maybe a little bit of brown in here. So, I'm going to work with these colors and just kind of make a very hazy, well-blended background. I'm going to keep using this brush because this is a small painting, and this is a good brush for getting nice, blendy colors. All right. So I'm mixing phthalo blue with white, and then I'm going to mix a little bit of brown. See if that's what I wanted. No, not really. Let's mix some ultramarine blue. All right, that's pretty close. Let's make it a little more saturated, a little more ultramarine, or a little bit more phthalo blue, my bad. All right. So I'm just going right up to the edge of the frog. If I wanted to paint over him, I could. Since I'm going to try to get this all done in one sitting for you guys, I am not going to paint over the frog because I'm trying to keep my lines a little bit cleaner. Since I'm using oil paint, it's going to dry more slowly, so it'll be a little bit easier if I just try to keep things neat. If I start to paint over my lines that are already there, then I'm going to have to put more paint over them later, and then it's going to make my paint colors a little muddy. So I'm just doing back and forth brush strokes, and it's just making a nice even blend there. All right, now we want to make some ultramarine blue with some whites and some rose. And that's pretty close to what I wanted there. Good. Now you can see I kind of went off from my grid with this background. I wasn't paying attention to the grid, but the background's not important. So I'm going to let go. And again, blending in, just going back over, up and down brush strokes to blend those colors. Going back to my darker color, add a little more brown. And blend that in. All right, good. Now we have this blue down here. Lots of phthalo blue down there. Let's make this not have sound. Okay. It's a little darker towards the bottom, so I'll just use some more phthalo blue. Maybe a little black. Just blend those in and pull them up. All right, there we go. The blue is easy. Now we're going to start to work on the greens. All right, so for these greens, we have, first I'm going to take a paper towel. I'm just going to wipe some of the excess blue off of my brush. And next I'm going to take some of my sap green with some yellow. Let's see what we get there. Okay, so that's pretty close. If you ever want to check your colors to your reference photo, just put a little dab next to it, or even like right on top of it. So if I put it right on top of it, you can see that it's a little bit darker, but my actual reference photo on the computer is pretty dang close to that. So that's what we're going to go with. So I'm just going to use that as my base for this whole leaf. And then I'm going to go back and add highlights on top of this color. So this was just sap green with cadmium yellow light. And again, using that same brush, just going right up to the edge of our frog. Oh, thanks, Dina. So this is Dina's challenge. She put together this totally awesome challenge, and I love the title for the challenge. Hashtag totally awesome. And she filmed her video in her backyard in her pond to show us how to do the challenge. So I thought that was pretty cool. You could hear the frogs and the amphibians in the background. I'll add a little bit of phthalo blue and a little bit more of my yellow. Just gonna blend that in. Okay, bye, Elf. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. And again, I'm just using those back and forth brush strokes, trying to keep all of my brush strokes going the same way so we have a nice smooth look for our plant. We don't have a lot of texture on the plant. It's in the background, so it's not in focus, and it's pretty smooth. So just gonna keep the brush strokes going back and forth just like that. All right, so now I'm gonna take a little bit phthalo blue, mix it down here. A little bit of yellow, a little bit more phthalo blue, and I'm going to go for the edges here. Actually, I'm just going to use like phthalo green. There we go, phthalo green. Yeah, that's what I wanted. All right, so this is supposed to be blurry too because it's out of focus, so I'm just like taking all the paint off my brush, and then I just kind of blend it in with that background color, and that gives me that nice soft faded look. All right, so now I'm taking some yellow and some white, blending those two together. I'm gonna take some of my other yellow, more of my cadmium, yellow, light. Now we're gonna paint this nice little lighter part of the plant right there. So I have a pretty heaping amount of paint on the brush, and that is because I'm going on top of already wet paint and I don't want it to blend too much. I still want to have that pigment come out. All right, and then after we got some of that color on there, then we just start blending to make it nice and smooth and look out of focus. And I have to take a little bit more phthalo green here and blend it in. Take some more phthalo green here. Now I'm just starting to add where my darker parts of the plant are. All right, I'm gonna change things up a little bit. I'm mixing phthalo green with my cadmium yellow light. And I'm gonna use a little bit of that up here just to give my greens a little bit of a boost. Sap green is kind of more of an earthy green, and phthalo green, when you mix it with yellow, gives you a really vibrant green. So just want to boost my saturation a little bit and make this green a little bit more poppy. Make it pop. Alrighty, I think that is just about good enough for that leaf. Let me just fix that right there. We can always go back to this because this is going to stay dry the whole time. Or wet the whole time, my bad. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna move forward. So in landscape paintings, we start with the thing that's farthest back and start to make our way forward. So we started with the background, then this leaf. Now this leaf is in front of that leaf, so we're gonna work on this leaf next. And down here, there's a little bit of leaf under it, so I'm gonna work on that. That's mostly just a phthalo green. Has a little bit of blue right there. A little bit of white maybe. Okay, and then it has kind of a lighter edge. And that is out of focus, so we're gonna blend that into the background a little more. All right, now we can work on this plant. I am gonna start with that same sap green yellow combo. I'm gonna add some phthalo green because this one's a little closer to us and I wanna make it a little more saturated. It's a little cooler too. If we look at our colors there, this is a little warmer, that's a little cooler. And phthalo green will help cool down our green. I'm still using the same brush that I used from the beginning. Back and forth brush strokes again. Right now I'm not worrying about any of these highlights or any of the detail. I'm just getting a base color. Filling in right around the edges of my frog. How much time do you guys think this is going to take? Do you think I can get this done in 2 hours? I always start out optimistic, and then I lose faith when I start to get into details like this. All right, some more green and yellow. Hi, Bucks baby. Thanks for watching. Whoops. Oh, thanks, Rounded Rob. Going right up to the edges of the frog's body. And right now I'm just touching up and making sure my brush strokes are going right back and forth. Covering in all of that space that was behind my plant on the canvas. All right, so we got our base color down for that leaf. Now we have, this leaf is curled up a little bit, and this here is the edge of the leaf, and then it starts to curl under down here. So it's a little bit, it's not much darker under here actually. It's just a little more brown in the plant on that side, I think. And then we have this nice little ledge here with these little dots. But I'm just going to use like a nice light line for that. So I'm going to start by adding some burnt umber and some phthalo blue there. And what else do I want to add? Let's add some yellow ochre and some phthalo green. And I'm just going to work on the spot under that line. There it is. And so this paint is already wet, so I'm just kind of blending it in with the wet paint we already have there. Oh, nice. Thanks, Dina. Thanks, Bucks baby. All right, we're going to add some more phthalo green and some burnt umber, and we're going to work on this down here, kind of blend it in. So I have a little too much paint on the canvas and the colors are just blending. And what you can do when that happens is thin down the layer on top of it. And then the paint just kind of glides on top of your darker, or on top of your thicker layer. You have to be very loose with your brush. Oh, there we go. I also don't want any texture, so I'm trying to clean out any little bits of paint that kind of accumulate in spots. Alrighty, and then this spot here has some white and some phthalo green, a little bit of yellow, or white. Okay, and then our little line there has lots of white and yellow. And for that, I'm going to try to just kind of drag this along that line and see how that turns out. It's working pretty well. There we go. Not bad. Now we can take some more phthalo green. We're going to work on this side. I'm going to mix phthalo green with phthalo blue and some burnt sienna. Alrighty. And let's see, we got another spot like that about right here. It's kind of coming down. Goes right under the frog. And we've got some streaks of it that aren't quite as bold, but are still there. So again, I'm still ignoring the fact that there's this wet water droplets here and this highlight from the moisture on the plant. I'm just kind of going with where my general stripes are on this plant. Just going to use some sap green for over here. There's a little bit of brown on this edge. Get that in there. There's a little bit of brown on this edge here too, actually. Kind of helps separate the two plants from each other, I think. Hello, thank you. Kujin Comic Art said, looking great. Thank you. I think I said your name wrong though, sorry. Oh, thank you, Dina. All right, now we're gonna start to add some yellow. So since my paint's already wet, if I just add pure yellow on there. Oh, thank you. Okay. Kujin said, good job on the name. All right, so now we just got some yellow, and it'll just blend right in to the green since the green's already wet, so you don't have to blend any other color in there yet. It'll blend itself on the canvas. Making sure I go right up to the frog, if not a little bit over that line, just so we don't have to go back and fill that in later with paint. Hint of a line there. All right, then we got some more white. Is this still all in there? Okay. Got a highlight here, kind of blends into that darker color. All right, now I will add just this highlight here. I'm not going to make the water droplets visible yet. I'm just going to show that we have reflection happening there. And there's some blue in there. Okay, and I'm going to use some burnt umber, some phthalo blue, phthalo green, and I'm going to work on the shadow, and let's use some sap green too. And I'm going to work on the shadow under our little frog here. Okay, so I'm just looking at my reference photo and seeing where the little shadows are and just painting them onto my canvas. Still using the same brush that I started with. All right, now the area under the frog here is all in shadow. I didn't even start that yet, but it's just a dark green, all in shadow. There's a little bit here that's kind of brighter. Just gonna fill in the space in between his little froggy fingers. All right, so a little bit more down over here. All right, I may have missed something, but we can always come back. But what we're gonna do now is work on the frog. All right, now approaching the frog, I think I'm gonna start with his, with this, there's a lot going on here, and that's a little intimidating. So I think I'm gonna start with the solid colors first that don't have a pattern, maybe work on the eyes, and then I will work on that lovely pattern that we have on the frog. So starting with his feet. So his feet are basically a cadmium red light. So I'm just going to start with that. It doesn't look like that color on my picture. As you can see the difference there. This is way more saturated, but in my image on the computer, he he's got some very saturated red little toes. So we're gonna use that. And you know what? I'm gonna switch out of my flat brush. I'm gonna start to use a round tipped brush. So this is, oh, hi Caramel, you're gonna be driving. Okay, drive safe. Hi, the unspeakable. Oh, you're doing a pour. What colors are you using? And what techniques? All right, so anyway, yep, back to here we have, bye Caramel. We have this small round tipped brush. Just gonna take some of that paint. And I already covered up some of the toes, so we gotta get those toes back. We're just gonna put a little circle where the toe is. Kind of bring it out. I'm gonna add a little bit of cadmium yellow medium just to give me a little more of an opaque color there. All right. And then this toe is in shadow. It's not going to be this bright, but I'm just going to fill it in for now. So we have it there. And let's see here. Let's just grab some of our alizarin crimson right now while we're working over here. So this guy is in shadow. This toe is in shadow over here. Let's get this toe. And this toe also in shadow. And then this part of his body is in shadow. All right. Good, we got the first foot on there. Back to my cadmium medium, cadmium red medium, and cadmium yellow medium. We're gonna work on this toe over here. And for all you guys that are chatting about everything you're doing, I'm going to go back and read your chats and catch up on some of your videos after I'm done with this guy here. So just keep chatting amongst yourselves, and I'll catch up. Okay, now we're getting into shadow, so I'm just going to switch over to my alizarin crimson. All right. And the rest of this foot is basically yellow with the pattern. All right, now we got his underside here. This has a little bit of brown in it, so I'm going to mix some of my cadmium, oops, sorry, not cadmium, my burnt sienna with my cadmium yellow medium. And that'll give me a nice burnt underbelly color. And we want to check this shape. So it goes out and then up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. Out and then up. Starting to add more warmer colors, so we're bringing it up to where he's in the light. And he's got this little spot there. And I'm gonna blend that into my shadow color there, just a little bit. All right, and then on his face, he's got the same thing. So on the side of his eye here, all right, his nose is still over here somewhere. There it is. Coming back to the burnt sienna, gonna mix a little bit of burnt umber. Kind of blend that in. So I keep my napkin gets very messy every time I paint. So I just wipe off my excess paint onto my napkin. And that keeps me from putting too much paint onto the canvas to the point where the colors start to get mucky together, or I start to put some texture in there from putting too much paint on. Just gonna redefine the shape of his little nose there. There we go. All right, now he's got a black eye here. I can always dip it into my paint thinner to give myself a little bit easier paint to work with. Got black around the edges of the eye. All right. Good. Now let's, oh sure, let's run the eye a little bit. So he's got like purple, orange, brown. He's got all kinds of colors in his little eye there. I think I'm gonna start with just a nice yellow ochre. And as you can see, that is blending with my black. So I should have started with my lighter colors first and then added black, but I did not do that. Let's fix the shape of his little black pupil there. Go back to our burnt umber. Colors are a little muddy in the eye. All right, now let's use some burnt sienna mixed with phthalo blue. Then I'm going to mix that background color that I had before. I'm just going to mix some white into that. And I'm going to do these little highlights, maybe a hint of rose, just to warm that up a bit. All right. Back to my burnt umber. There we go, that's helping a little bit, I think. And then we have this. I'm gonna mix my burnt umber with my blue again here. Okay. Starting to add those little detailed lines in the pattern. This is just helping me to differentiate between the orange part and the yellow part of the frog. Got a little bit of white here. Okay. A little more brown. All right. That's a good start for the frog's eyes for now. We're going to come back to those later. Okay, for now I'm going to take a little bit of my red, mix it with my alizarin crimson, and I see there's like a hint of a darker red right here. I'm going to blend that up. All right. And we got some brown here. We have a, where his little Ray croaks, his little froggy croak spot. All right. Next, let's do this back foot while we're still working with our cadmium red. And I'm going to add a little more cadmium yellow medium to that. Oh, you guys can't really see that anymore. Let me move this all up a little bit. All right, now we can't see the frog as much. There we go. Okay. Back dipping this in the paint thinner. And I'm getting that nice and thin so it's easy to work with. And here we are. Let's work on this right here. This one's in shadow, so we're going to use our alizarin crimson color. And this one is in the light. Going back to our cadmium red and cadmium yellow medium mixture. Okay, now you'll see this red comes up his little leg there. So I'm just using my same small sized round tipped brush and following up that line. And let's see, this kind of connects there. And then we have like a little bit of, there's a highlight there, and then we have, I'm going to put a shadow in there too so I know where this is. I do have a bit of a shadow. I'm just going to paint one in there so I can separate these two. There we go. And then we'll go back to our warm red. There we are. I'm going to blend that shadow color into my warm red on the top part of the leg. And then we have that little highlight there. Usually I do this at the end, but I'm just gonna throw it in there. It's got some rose in it. And it's just this nice little okay, a little too much. All right. Good. Now we're gonna work on this belly section. So we still have some red on this edge, kind of right in there on the frog. And I'm gonna go back to my burnt sienna mixture for the bottom part of the stomach. And now we have a color that is pretty close to just this cadmium yellow. I'm gonna add a hint of the cadmium red. Oh yeah, that's a good color. Okay. So like I said before, this is way duller and way less colored. Oh, bye, Ian. We'll see you next time. This is way duller than what I'm painting, but my reference image is on my computer, and it is way more saturated and nice and vibrant compared to the reference photo you guys are looking at. I think I'm gonna mix a hint of ochre in there too. Yeah, that looks good. All right, and that comes up to about right there. And it comes up here too. Alright guys, we made it to the trickiest part of this frog, and that is the pattern yellow and black with like hints of purple from the reflecting moisture on him. This is true, the unspeakable, it could be any color he wants. But I am usually not that creative and imaginative with my use of color. I like to just copy what I see, so that's what I'm doing with this one. Oh, thanks, the unspeakable, thank you. Yeah, so we're gonna work with a yellow, purple, and blackish, brownish, darker purple now. So I think my approach is going to be pretend like the black... So I could do this two ways. I could pretend like the black line, the black pattern is not there and just do a base color first and then do the black over it, which is what I would do if I wasn't trying to do this in one sitting, because I would let that yellow dry and then I would come back and do all of the black over top of it. But since we're trying to do this in one sitting, I think the second approach might be better, which is going to be to start with the black and then fill in the yellow in between. And I know that yellow is going to bleed into the black, but we're just going to use a lot of paint and paint over it, okay? So we're going to start with the black, and I'm just going to try to nail that pattern. And it's nice that I still have bits of my grid showing, so I can kind of get an idea of how big to make those shapes. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to perfectly match the pattern on that frog, but I'm going to use that as reference and just try to get something similar to that. So I'm going to mix some black with my rose and a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little more rose, and then I'm just going to dip that into a lot of paint thinner. And there we go. All right, so we're at about 1 hour so far. That gives me 1 hour to work on this pattern, but hopefully we get it done faster than that, but we'll see. All right, here we go. Nice and thin paint. Starting with the pattern. So right on his head there, we have... I'm just gonna mumble to myself while I work on this. Got a little bit there. I'll kind of point to where I'm working so you get an idea of what I'm seeing here. So I'm looking at where these little patterns are in comparison to other features on his body. All right, so we're about here on the eye, that's right. Might just go ahead and redefine this edge really quickly. Okay. All right, back to where we were. Got this here. This is one. It's close to that edge. We got one here. And then after his eye, we have a little one here. It's got a little upside down heart here. That's cute. Okay. All right, I'm gonna work with what I got here so far, and then we'll finish up that leg last. But so now we have lots of yellow in here. So we're gonna mix our cadmium yellow light with cadmium yellow medium. And that is pretty much exactly the color that I need. In some spots it's a little bit more yellow, and in some spots it's a little more brown. I'm just gonna work with what we got there. And I'm just gonna fill in these little spots that I basically just outlined. And then once I get that done, I can add a little more detail. You know what? I'm gonna go more yellow, cadmium yellow light, so we can see the difference between that orange color. Here we go. So now I'm just using a really thick layer of paint to try to keep it from blending with that black. It's not doing the best job. It's looking pretty cute though. Okay. Now the front has a little more orange in the face, so we're gonna work on that. We added a little more cadmium yellow medium. Oops. Okay, this area's got a little more burnt sienna. So I'm gonna blend that in, blend that color, and then put it in my little spots. And And this goes right up to the edge of the frog. Starting to get more into our yellow. All right. Back towards our yellow. Using a really thick layer of paint still here. So far it's working okay. Alright, this one's really yellow. It's blending with the black. But that's alright, we can touch it up later. Ah! Getting paint on my arms. So this is pretty repetitive, same thing I was doing before, just filling in my little spots on the frog. And it's not a perfect exact match between the frog in the reference photo and the frog in the painting. Like this, the size and shapes of the little pattern is not exactly the same, but it still looks like a frog. The important parts of this painting were to get this frog, get his proportions accurate. So to make sure his eye was a good size relative to his hand, that kind of stuff is more important than necessarily the size and shape of the pattern on his back. Okay, so we got the back filled in for the most part on the frog. The next step is going to be to work on his little legs again and get that pattern on his legs. We have a little bit on this side. That's about all we have on that side there. Now over here, I'm going to grab some more cadmium yellow light. There we go. And I'm going to fill in these little shapes on his little legs. All right. All right, now I got that little leg. Now we can work on this leg in the back. So I'm going to work on sketching out the pattern again. I have black mixed with alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, getting that nice and thinned out with my paint thinner. And we're just gonna do a basic quick little outline for these shapes on the leg. Sometimes if you have a painting with a lot of pattern in a lot of different places, then it can get a little overwhelming, so it's helpful to take a little break from that pattern, maybe work on something else and then come back to it. So that's what I did there. I got the back and those legs done, took a break. Now my mind is clear and I can work on painting this pattern again. To paint over my red a little bit there. All right, there we are. again, just filling in those shapes. And once we finish this part, then the next will be to start to add the detail on the frog, to a further extent than the detail I already have here. We're going to start adding some highlights and some additional shadows and a little bit of the dots that the frog has in his little skin. All right. Almost done with the back leg. Definitely getting a lot of blending with that black. But we will paint over that later. Bringing the yellow right up to the edge of the frog's body. All right, there we are. So basic frog is done. Now we start to add some more details. So this frog is wet and he has, these little highlights there from the light reflecting off of his wet body. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. I'm also going to define that black border a little bit more, add some more detail to his little froggy toes. And then we'll call it a painting, and that'll be all. Maybe a little bit of moisture on the leaf too, but then we'll call it a painting. So we're about 90 minutes in, or 86 minutes in, so I will see how much more I can get done here in the next half hour, and then we'll call it a painting. But now it's really just working on the things we already did just to boost them and add some more highlights. So like if you wanted to call it a finished piece here, you can call it finished, or you could just keep working. I'm really detail intense. Hi Peter, thanks for watching. Thanks for the nice comment too. Very nice painting, love your work. So yeah, if you want it to be done, it could be done. I really like to pay attention to detail. Thanks, Dina. Dina said looks spectacular. So with my attention to detail, I'm going to continue working. But for some people, just getting the colors and the shapes down is where they like to stop. So it's all up to your own preference. All right. Cleaning off my brush. Thanks, Forgotten Winter. He said he likes the layering, so it looks pretty good. All right, so we got that white there, our yellow. Can you see this? Yeah. So he's got a nice, really bright yellow. I'm just gonna take some of that white off. We're gonna use a lot of white and make a really bright yellow. And we're gonna just we have a really thick application of paint here, so I'm just gonna boop, boop, just add little bits there. And now we are gonna start to develop some texture on this painting just because I'm putting wet paint on top of wet paint and I don't want the colors to blend, so I'm just really building texture at this point. That's not what I usually like to do, but for the sake of this piece, that's what we're gonna do. It's got this little highlight right on top of his eye. Little highlight on this side of his eye. Little highlight right here on his wet nose. And do a little bit here. Let's do some pure yellow in here too. Getting really textured. All right, I'm gonna mix my purple with this color that is that, oh sorry, I'm mixing my white with my color that is like a nice purple. And that is gonna be another highlight. And I'm also gonna, before I do that, I'm gonna take some alizarin crimson that has a hint of white mixed in with it. I'm just gonna start to put some of that in between these little crevices here because some of his little black outline spots have like a hint of red in them. And mix a little cadmium red in there too. So the reason why I picked this frog, I looked at pictures of frogs for probably a half hour before I picked this one. I wanted to do a frog instead of a toad because I like the texture, the smooth texture of frogs more than the bumpy, more matte looking texture of toads. So I wanted to do a frog, and I was looking at a bunch of poison dart frogs because they're really colorful, and I liked the colorful frog idea. So after looking at a bunch of poison dart frogs, I finally picked this one, and the background was actually like more brown and then green, and I did some digital editing to make that background blue. So then we have all of our primary colors. We have reds, yellows, greens, and blues in there, and they're just very colorful painting. So that is why I picked this guy. Even did some editing to the background to give us those blues, to give us like that full rainbow color range. All right, I got distracted. I was gonna show you guys the highlight, but I didn't do it yet. All right, highlight. So for this highlight, we're just gonna, this is this guy right here. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna start just adding that highlight in thick layers on, making a nice line along the frog's back. So that's kind of like my base highlight. We're gonna have another highlight on top of that highlight Right now I'm mixing a darker shade of purple, and that is for the little, where the black is, in between there on the highlight. Since our black is also going to be lighter than what we currently have. Okay. Maybe a little more blue there. Might look better. Yeah, I like that more. Okay. Good. And then we're just going to take some pure white. There we go. And a couple little spots. And more on his nose there. A little more right there. And he's got one back here too. So that gives him a little more of the appearance that he's wet. All right, give me that nice purpley blue color again. All right, it's looking good. Okay, we have a little highlight on the leaf where it's wet right around his foot. And let's see, here's one here. A little bit of one here. A little bit of something there. Go a little darker there. And then we're going to have this purple color right here. Mix that, make it a little warmer purple. I'll mix some more red. Just adding more details to bring this frog to life. Oh, we have a nice bright highlight right here. A little more shadow back here. Add some blue to my alizarin crimson mix. That'll give me a nice dark color there. And let's see what else we have. A little bit of orange on his foot here. They have the craziest little feet. Do some red right there and right there and right there. I'm gonna add some highlights on his little white feet. All right, a little more on the eye. Need a little more white. All right, we're getting close to being done here. He's looking pretty good. Just need a hint of blue. Let's clean that brush off. So basically I used two brushes for this whole painting. I used a small flat-tipped brush and a small round-tipped brush. That is because this is a small painting. If I was doing a larger painting, I would have started with larger brushes and then went back down to a smaller brush. Got a little eye socket right there I missed before. And let's see, a little bit brighter yellow, brown, and his eye. There you go. Missed a couple little details when I was getting that all figured out. Okay, so looking pretty good. I could keep working on this forever, honestly. This is a lot of detail in this guy, but I will not do that. Gonna be done pretty soon here. Alright, final touches are gonna be some more highlights on the leaf. So we got this little water here, little water there. Just blending back and forth. And then we have a little dark shadow. I'm going to use phthalo blue and black, or phthalo green and black. Get it nice and saturated there. And we're just going to do this little bit of a shadow there. And then we just have like a couple more of these little shadows, and they're all going to be right under a highlight, and that's what makes it look wet. So I'm just going to use a lot of black and phthalo green. Get it really thin so I can just quickly give you a couple of these little pockets of wet. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm just going to do this quickly for you so you get the idea. A couple little pockets of wet. I should use a liner brush for this too so I can get even finer. All right, and then we take our white I just put little highlights above all those spots there. And it still has a little bit of green in it. And then your little highlight has a little highlight on top of that highlight that's even brighter. Yeah, that's basically what we got. Still have some of the plant texture here. Just gonna blend it a little more. Goes these highlights back. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm going to call this a painting now. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you have any questions for me or there was something I didn't make clear while I was painting, if you're trying to reproduce this painting and you get stuck somewhere, just leave a comment, let me know where you get stuck, and I'll see if I can hopefully help you out a little bit. But other than that, this is done, as I say, as I continue painting. All right. There we go. Now it's done. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let me show you. There it is. So he got his little highlight on his eye there. You know, I could go back and do more detail later on, but I think this gets us enough detail to the point where it looks like a finished painting. It looks like he's on a nice wet leaf there. He's reflecting the water off of his body with that purple and the nice light yellow colors there. We've got the shadow under his little head, and we're using some more cool reds there. And we got all of our colors that I wanted to have in here. Thanks, Forgotten Winner. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I appreciate it. All right, so thanks. We'll see you guys next time. If there is another painting idea you have for me, just leave that for me in the comments or in the chat as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you.